Welcome back to Fearless Finances, where I try to take the fear out of your finances. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about investment advisors or financial planners, whatever label you want to put on it. The reason this even came up is I was out to lunch with a couple of girlfriends, and one of them recently divorced, one of them recently retired. And they both asked me the same underlying question. What do you recommend I do with my investment portfolio? And should I have a financial advisor? So I thought I'd bring that same topic to you. Maybe you're wondering, should I have a financial advisor? What should I do with my investment portfolio? So let's get to it. I've spent my entire career either working for insurance companies or investment firms. I've worked with literally thousands of different agents and financial planners across the country with a whole host of different products. And when I started my business to train those agents, I took my 401k and I rolled it over to a self-directed IRA. Since I've worked in the investment arena, I managed my own portfolio and it was doing well. And I was playing around and dabbling with a few extra types of investments that I thought would do well. Things like certain sector funds for medical care and the like. And the portfolio did pretty good. Then I was doing some volunteer work at church, and there was a young man there who had just started a career as a financial advisor. Now, I know how this business works. People like him like to recruit people like me because then they can build up their clientele. And eventually, people like me refer other people to them, right? So even though I didn't necessarily need the financial advice, I rolled my portfolio over to him. There were a few investments that he picked that I wouldn't have picked, but I thought, what the heck? I didn't think it was going to be horrible or I would have objected. It worked out fine. And time just kind of went on. Now, I knew I was paying fees for this service, and I wasn't really getting much out of it. And what I mean by that is I was a low need customer. He didn't have to explain market trends to me. He didn't have to explain when he would change the portfolio mix. I knew much of that. And so I didn't have a lot of questions and I didn't have a lot of needs. Then it came time to write my book, my financial planning book. And part of the book, I wanted to give advice to people in finding a financial advisor. So I went to my friend from church that I still love very much. He has a cute family now, just adorable. But anyway, I digress. I went to my church friend, my financial advisor, and I said, how much am I paying in fees? Where do I find my fees? And he told me, and I looked it up. And when I did the quick calculation in my head, the percentage of my portfolio, how much I was paying him, I thought to myself, that's more money than I would give to my friend. And I'm going to give my friend a name. Let's just call my friend Joe. The fees that I was paying is more money than I would give Joe once a month every time I saw him for the amount of service I was getting on my account. I have another friend who has ownership interest in a financial services firm, so I went to her. And I said, this is how much I'm paying in fees. What do you think? And she turned to me and she said, Renee, that's some of the fees that we give our best customers. I thought, all right, well, at least he's giving me a good deal, right? But I couldn't get this percentage out of my head. I kept thinking, I'm working really hard to get all this money in here. And I had to recover some losses on my portfolio. There was the lost decade where there were hardly any gains from the year 2000 to 2010. I gave some of my IRA to my ex-husband. That wasn't fun. I've worked really hard as a single mom to try to build this up. And I'm working hard still to contribute. And this was the thing that kept clicking in my head. Renee, when your portfolio gets to the dollar amount you want it to be, half of your annual contribution is going to Joe. And just so this dollar amount comes into perspective, this amount is more than I pay in a year for clothes. It's more than I pay for food. It's more than I would pay for my electric and heat. It was the largest bill in my budget other than my mortgage. And I couldn't get over that. Like, I love Joe, and the whole reason I did this was to help Joe, but I didn't really think that this agreement was helping me that much. So I went to Joe and I stated my concerns. And he said, you know what, Renee, let's talk. I think you're getting more services than you realize from us, and we'd like to go through them. Perfect. I scheduled a phone call, still not convinced. In fact, I even said to Joe, by the time my portfolio gets to the level that I want, half of my annual contribution is going to you. That's a lot of money. Think about how much you're putting away for retirement if you're working on it, right? It's a lot of money. And this is what Joe said. Joe said, well, Renee, you're not giving me any money. It's deducted from your account. What? Joe, still my money, still going to you. And he knows this, but he's used to saying the things, right? The things that they say to all the people. So I let Joe go, but I can't get over it. And I'm not okay with it. Like, I'm not paying Joe that amount of money every month. I'm just not. And the service that I was getting isn't worth it. And there were other things that he said. You know, Renee, when you get to the liquidation phase, we're going to help you through that. Okay. Well, I can bring my portfolio to you then. I don't need you to have it now. I didn't say that, but you get what I'm saying, right? Still thinking about Joe, thinking about what's fair, thinking about my book, because I want to share this with my readers. I want to share this experience, these thoughts around how you make these choices with you. So I send Joe an email and I say, you know, Joe, I've been thinking about it. How about we split my portfolio? I manage half, you manage half, and we see who does better. I kind of already had an idea. It'd be me. Because when I'm not paying those fees, it's easier to do better. You'll find that out from the Joe Bogle video that's down there. Oh, and the Retirement Gamble, I put that documentary in the description too. Super good. PBS Frontline. Watch that too. So, back to Joe and my deal. Let's split it. 2 days later, I get an email from Joe. And the email basically says, we're not interested in retaining you as a client anymore. Not kidding. You can leave your IRA where it is, but if you should choose to move it, we will not assist you. Joe, my friend from church, broke up with me in an email over money. I promptly sent him one back. I said, Joe, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I introduced you to your wife. I love you and I love your family. You couldn't even call me? You couldn't even discuss this? Do you think I got a response? Now, Over the years, I paid Joe lots of money. I'm okay with it. I guess I kind of have to be. I felt compelled to do it, and I knew how this worked, and I wanted to help him. I'm also really glad he did break up with me because my portfolio after this went through the roof. So, let me tell you what I did. Since I have no idea what your experience with investments is, I recommend that if you want to be educated, start with the basics, like what is a stock? What is a bond? What is an EFT? How is that different from a mutual fund? What is an index fund? What are the typical indices? If you don't want to get into all of that and you're still pretty new at this and your portfolio is kind of small, go to an investment advisor for a while and get one who will educate you, who will explain why certain choices are being made and what these different investments are. The other thing that you can do is what Jack Bogle and Warren Buffett recommend. Just put your money in the S&P 500. In today's market, depending on how old you are, I might recommend putting in some bonds too. You can find virtual advisors. What's a virtual advisor? It's a program that's at a lot of the brokerage houses. You plug in how much money you have, how much money you make, how much you plan to contribute, what your risk tolerance is, and it puts together a portfolio for you. Jack Bogle created a company called Vanguard. When Joe let me go, I went to Vanguard. I knew about Jack. I trusted Jack's historic advice. I checked out the fees in the accounts. You can have an account there with no actual fee. Your fees are just going to be in the investment products. And when Trump got elected, I got myself a robo-advisor to help make my plan a little more conservative. We'll talk about that in just a minute. 2 final pieces of advice. One of them is this. Many of these online brokerage houses also have the ability for you to talk to an advisor. This will generally be at a flat fee or a specific percentage. It gives you the option to have that same person to talk to you a little bit about how the fees work, how this investment strategy would work, whatever it is that your questions might be. And here's my second piece of advice. Don't put a lot of money into any sort of investment that you can't have an elevator conversation about and explain it to somebody who has no idea what it might be. Investments that I think of that fall under this are probably like crypto. I know some people make a ton of money on crypto, and you might be one of those people, and that's wonderful. But for some of this long-term savings, it's better to look at potentially more traditional investments unless you can have that elevator conversation. I'm also kind of wondering what you've decided to do over the years. How did you learn more about investments so that I can help people who aren't like me in financial services find some good resources out there? I'd really appreciate your help with that. I'd also like you to subscribe so that you can see some additional videos. And if you like this, it will surely get out to more people. Also, if you're kind of wondering what you might want to do with your investments now that Trump is in office, I did a video about that you can check out right there.